What lies beneath the Colosseum? You think you know the Colosseum, the gladiators, the roaring crowds, the epic battles. But what if I told you that the real show, the part that would absolutely blow your mind, happened completely out of sight? Beneath your feet, hidden under what tourists see today, lies one of the most sophisticated pieces of ancient technology ever built. A mechanical marvel that could make elephants appear from thin air, transform the arena into a lake, and stage spectacles so incredible that even today's special effects teams would be jealous. I'm talking about the hypogeum, the underground world beneath the Colosseum that made the impossible possible. Welcome back to Chapters in History. Today, we're going beneath the surface to explore the hidden engineering masterpiece that turned the Colosseum into the greatest show on Earth. Chapter 1. The Hidden City Below. First, let's get our bearings. When you visit the Colosseum today, you're looking down into what looks like a basement. But calling it a basement is like calling the Pentagon an office building. This underground complex, the hypogeum, was basically a subterranean city dedicated to one purpose: creating the most spectacular entertainment in human history. We're talking about 2 full levels underground, stretching across the entire arena floor, 15 corridors running north to south, connected by a central corridor running east to west. Over 80 separate chambers, each with a specific purpose. Storage rooms, animal cages, gladiator holding areas, mechanical workshops, and even a sophisticated drainage system. But here's what's really incredible. This wasn't just storage space. This was a fully operational theater backstage area, complete with 32 animal lifts, dozens of trapdoors, and a mechanical system so complex that it required a team of over 200 operators to run a single show. To put this in perspective, imagine if a modern football stadium had a second stadium hidden underneath it, complete with moving platforms, hydraulic lifts, and the ability to flood the entire field at a moment's notice. That's essentially what the Romans built, with ancient technology. And here's the kicker. This wasn't part of the original design. When the Colosseum first opened in 80 AD, the arena floor was solid wood that could be flooded for naval battles. The hypogeum was added later, under Emperor Domitian, sometime between 81 and 96 AD. They basically performed surgery on the world's most famous building and installed a mechanical heart beneath it. For centuries, this underground world was buried and forgotten. It wasn't until the 1800s that archaeologists began serious excavation, and what they found changed everything we thought we knew about Roman engineering. Chapter 2. The machine that made magic. Now let's talk about how this underground machine actually worked, because this is where the story gets absolutely mind-blowing. The star of the show was the animal lift system. 32 individual elevators, strategically placed throughout the arena floor. Each lift was operated by a counterweight system that could raise a platform from the hypogeum to arena level in a matter of seconds. Picture this. You're a Roman citizen sitting in the stands, watching gladiators fight. Suddenly, the floor opens and a full-grown African elephant rises from the earth, like it's emerging from the underworld. The crowd goes absolutely wild, because they have no idea how this is possible. But down below, it's choreographed chaos. Animal handlers have guided the elephant onto a wooden platform. Teams of slaves operate the counterweight system. Trap doors are coordinated to open at the exact right moment. It's like a massive underground dance routine where one mistake could mean death. And it wasn't just elephants. Lions, tigers, bears, ostriches, crocodiles, hippos. The Romans imported exotic animals from across their empire just to lift them dramatically into the arena. Some lifts were designed for single animals. Others could handle entire packs of wolves or multiple gladiators at once. The gladiators themselves used this system for dramatic entrances. Imagine being a gladiator, waiting in the darkness below, hearing the roar of 50,000 people above you, and then suddenly rising through the floor like you're ascending from Hades itself. The psychological impact on both the gladiator and the audience must have been incredible. But the lifts were just the beginning. The hypogeum also housed elaborate sets and props that could transform the arena in minutes. One moment you're watching gladiators fight on sand. The next moment trees are rising from the ground and you're watching a hunt in an artificial forest. The coordination required was staggering. For a single spectacle, you might have multiple animal lifts operating simultaneously, gladiators emerging from different trapdoors, and scenery changes happening in real time. All of this had to be timed perfectly, because remember, there's no stopping the show when 50,000 people are watching. The Romans essentially created the world's first special effects department, hidden beneath the arena floor. They had lift operators, animal handlers, prop masters, and what we'd basically call stage managers today, all working together to create seamless theatrical magic. Chapter 3. The Naval Battles Mystery. Now, here's where the story gets complicated, and it's one of the biggest mysteries in Roman history. Early accounts tell us that the Colosseum could be flooded for massive naval battles called Naumachia. We're talking about full-scale ship battles with thousands of participants, staged in an artificially flooded arena. But here's the problem. Once the hypogeum was built, flooding the arena became basically impossible. The complex underground structure meant that filling the arena with water would flood all those chambers and corridors. So how did they do it? Some historians think they had a sophisticated system of watertight barriers that could seal off sections of the hypogeum. Others believe they used temporary wooden floors that could be installed over the underground area. The most likely explanation is that they had removable sections that could be sealed when water events were planned. The Romans definitely had the water supply for it. Multiple aqueducts fed into the city, and there are clear drainage systems built into the hypogeum. Archaeological evidence shows channels and drains that could handle massive amounts of water. But think about the logistics. To stage a naval battle, you need to flood the arena with millions of gallons of water, float actual warships, stage a battle with hundreds of participants, then drain the entire thing and clean up for the next day's gladiator fights. It's an engineering challenge that would be difficult today, let alone 2,000 years ago. Contemporary Roman writers describe these naval battles in vivid detail. Ships ranning each other, hundreds of prisoners fighting to the death on water, elaborate recreations of famous historical battles. But the more we learn about the hypogeum, the more mysterious these accounts become. Modern engineers have attempted to figure out how it could have worked, and the consensus is that it was possible, but incredibly complex. It would have required advanced planning, specialized equipment, and probably took days to set up and clean up. Chapter 4. The Forgotten Workers. But let's talk about the people who made all this possible, because their story is often forgotten. The hypogeum wasn't just a machine. It was operated by hundreds of human beings, most of them slaves, working in conditions that were basically an underground hell. Imagine spending your entire working life in those tunnels. No natural light, limited ventilation, the constant smell of animals and human waste. The temperature underground stayed relatively constant, which was probably a relief in summer, but in winter it was cold and damp. The animal handlers had one of the most dangerous jobs in the ancient world. They were responsible for managing wild, terrified animals in cramped underground spaces. A single mistake could mean being mauled by a lion or trampled by an elephant. The lift operators needed incredible timing and coordination. Remember, there were no communication systems beyond shouting. They had to time their lifts perfectly with the action above, often without being able to see what was happening in the arena. There were also gladiator trainers, medical staff, and equipment managers, all working in the hypogeum. Some gladiator schools had their own sections underground, where fighters could prepare, receive medical treatment, and store their weapons. The social hierarchy underground mirrored the complexity above. You had skilled animal trainers who were valuable and relatively well treated, general laborers who were essentially expendable, and specialists like lift operators who required training and experience. Archaeological evidence shows us sleeping areas, cooking facilities, and even some recreational spaces. These people didn't just work in the hypogeum, many of them lived there. It was a complete underground community dedicated to serving the entertainment needs of the empire. Excavations have revealed graffiti left by workers, personal belongings, and even evidence of gambling and other activities during downtime. These weren't just faceless operators, they were real people with personalities, relationships, and their own small rebellions against the system. Chapter 5. The Engineering Marvel. From an engineering perspective, the hypogeum represents some of the most sophisticated construction of the ancient world. The Romans solved problems that modern engineers still study and admire. First, there's the structural challenge. You're essentially hollowing out the foundation of a massive building, and then expecting it to support the weight of 50,000 people, plus the dynamic loads of thousands of performers, animals, and equipment. The Romans used a combination of concrete, stone, and innovative arch construction to distribute weight safely. The ventilation system was incredibly advanced, with hundreds of people and animals working underground, plus the heat from torches and oil lamps. Air circulation was critical. The Romans created a network of air shafts and circulation channels that kept the underground areas relatively breathable. The drainage system was equally impressive. Between animal waste, human waste, water from cleaning, and the occasional flood event, the hypogeum needed sophisticated waste management. The Romans built channels, sumps, and drainage tunnels that connected to the city's main sewer system. But perhaps most impressive was the coordination system. Without modern communication technology, the Romans developed visual and audio signals that allowed complex timing between different areas of the hypogeum and the arena above. Flag systems, horn signals, and precisely choreographed movements made the whole thing work. Modern sports stadiums and entertainment venues use electronic systems, hydraulic lifts, and computer coordination to achieve similar effects. The Romans did it with counterweights, human power, and incredible organizational skills. Recent analysis of the construction techniques shows that Roman engineers understood load distribution, materials science, and structural dynamics in ways that weren't matched in Europe for over 1,000 years after the fall of Rome. Chapter 6: The Decline and Rediscovery. By the 5th century AD, the great age of gladiatorial games was ending. Christianity was becoming the dominant religion, and the massive cost of staging spectacles was becoming harder to justify as the empire faced increasing challenges. The hypogeum was gradually abandoned. Without maintenance, the mechanical systems broke down. The chambers filled with debris. Nature began to reclaim the underground spaces. For centuries, the Colosseum was used for everything except entertainment. It housed workshops, storage, religious services, even apartments. The hypogeum became a forgotten basement, its incredible engineering buried under centuries of accumulated dirt and debris. It wasn't until the 1800s that serious archaeological work began. When excavators started clearing out the arena floor, they had no idea what they would find. The discovery of the hypogeum was like finding a hidden city beneath a city. Today, you can tour parts of the hypogeum, though much of it remains off limits for safety and conservation reasons. The Italian government continues to study and preserve this incredible piece of engineering history. So the next time you see a picture of the Colosseum, remember that what you're looking at is just half the story. The real engineering marvel, the part that made the impossible possible, lies hidden beneath the surface. The hypogeum represents human ingenuity at its finest. Ancient engineers solving complex problems with simple tools. Workers coordinating elaborate productions without modern technology. And all of it serving the very human desire to be amazed, to see something that defies explanation. In many ways, the hypogeum was the ancient world's version of a modern special effects studio. It was where the magic happened, where the impossible became possible, where ordinary people created extraordinary experiences. What other hidden marvels from the ancient world would you like to explore? The secret passages of Egyptian pyramids? The underground cities of Cappadocia? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey beneath the Colosseum, make sure to subscribe to Chapters in History and hit that notification bell. We're always digging deeper into the stories that shaped our world. Until next time, keep exploring the hidden chapters of history. You never know what incredible stories are waiting just beneath the surface.